This is the Fisker Ocean, an electric SUV hoping to take the American market by storm. It features several interesting design choices, like rooftop solar panels and a heavy emphasis on recycled material usage. That might sound familiar, especially if you've heard the name Fisker before. It's most commonly associated with a previous vehicle made by a company of the same name, the Fisker Karma. The Fisker Karma is a real oddity, and YouTube is a source of all sorts of different videos about it, from established journalists to people far more interested in just reviewing very strange and weird cars. This is the Fisker Karma, a luxury plug-in hybrid from 2011. Sort of, and we'll get into that later. It was an incredibly weird vehicle featuring tons of unorthodox and futuristic design choices. One of the most notable things about it was the fact that it was Fisker's first car, and it was one of the very first plug-in hybrid vehicles on the market. And take a look at the thing. It has an LCD in the middle of the dash featured prominently, and that's pretty impressive for a car from 2011. I mean, the last major CRT manufacturer, Videocon, kept making CRTs until 2015. You might have heard about this, but Fisker Automotive is hoping to launch an electric sedan called the Ocean and become a notable player in the electric vehicle space. Now, before going any further, I need to make a clarification on the company. Fisker is known for the Karma, but the modern Fisker isn't exactly the same company that made the Karma. Fisker was founded in 2007 and first debuted the Karma in 2008 during the North American International Auto Show. It began its first deliveries in 2011 and ended production of the Karma in 2012 because the battery supplier, A123 Systems, went bankrupt. Fisker didn't actually make its own batteries, or a whole lot else about the car really. They mainly had an assembly plant. Fisker ended up going bankrupt and auctioned off all of its assets in 2014. The vast majority of them were bought by a Chinese company, which renamed the whole company to Karma Automotive, and which is essentially making an updated version of the Karma with the same tooling. And they're actually still in production today. That's their website, and this is the futuristic Karma I've been showing. It definitely carries over a lot of the design of the previous Karma, but again, it's kind of interesting, and Fisker had limited production to begin with. One of the only things that the executives kept was the brand name. And it's important to realize that because modern Fisker is in many ways distinct from the former company. The original Fisker was a 53-employee company. It was very small and relied heavily on outsourced parts, which ultimately didn't help with their survival when one of their outsourced manufacturers went bankrupt. So don't fall under the impression that it's the same company with the same assets. A few people, like the founder and the brand name, were carried over. But other than that, not a whole lot else. You might also notice there's a lot of talk about Fisker Stock, but no actual Fisker ticker. Fisker is going public via a merger with Spartan Energy Acquisition Corp., SPAQ, which is a blank check company that really only exists to bring private companies public. The original Fisker was never public, and in actuality, it's very difficult and expensive to bring even a small company public. So it's not an unreasonable strategy, but I'm of the opinion that IPOs are often more elegant because they actually let investors purchase the stock. With this merger system, you're purchasing warrants, not straight stock. If you have any intention of investing in this company, I highly recommend you read through the details and SEC filings for this merger and get a proper perspective on the deal that you're actually purchasing. So, does Fisker seem like a good investment opportunity? Well, first and foremost, the SUV market is huge in the United States, so for a first product, it does make a lot of sense. I've seen tons of small EV manufacturers want to launch with incredibly small, often three-wheeled vehicles, and they're selling in the US only. That is an insanely niche market. EVs are hot, SUVs are hot, so it's not an awful idea at all. The biggest concern I have about the stock is they haven't made any yet, at least production units, and they don't plan to make any for a while. Production is predicted to start in Q4 of 2022, which is kind of insane. It's remarkably difficult to judge the launch product of a company if they aren't even going to make it for 2 years. Fisker also isn't actually manufacturing the vehicle. It's being made by a Chinese company called Magna. Much like the original Fisker company that went bankrupt, there is a big focus on outside manufacturers, not vertical integration. Vertical integration is very hard and very expensive, but the only successful EV company with a global presence right now prides itself on vertical integration: Tesla. Elon Musk has repeatedly stated how significant and important vertical integration is. Personally, I don't like a company teasing going public before actually selling products. In many ways, Fisker is the antithesis of Tesla in their approach, and I can't say I'm particularly convinced their approach will work. Car manufacturing is very difficult, especially in a mature market like the United States, and the Fisker Ocean is supposed to launch in the US first and then gradually expand. And while some of these images are nice and there's some interesting design going on, we really don't have a whole lot of information on the car. I've been searching a lot and there really isn't a lot of information on this vehicle. Yes, they're saying minimum range of 250 miles, looking more for 300 miles, 80 kilowatt, lithium-ion battery pack, 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds supposedly. But there really is not a lot of information, and that's not terribly surprising because it's not really even in the pre-production phase. They're still dealing with negotiations and closing out on a deal with their manufacturing partner, Magna. Realize this is not a profitable company, and it isn't actually a proper company yet, just an acquisition firm that has made several announcements and are dealing with a warrant system. There is not profit generation, and it would be very safe to guarantee they won't have any profit generation until an absolute minimum of 2023, because they won't be producing anything until Q4 2022, unless they really fly by. So it's difficult to recommend something like buying now since we're missing so much info. Many things depend on your risk tolerance, but if I wanted to deal with very risky plays, I'd prefer to play options on more established companies. There's ultimately very little here other than timelines. And they make very vague statements. This one about solid-state batteries. There are absolutely no solid-state batteries in mass production right now. Toyota and Panasonic are partnered and hoping to maybe get them into production by 2025. But those are two massive corporations with a lot of experience with battery production, and they also have minimal details on that. There's no way the Fisker Ocean will feature solid-state batteries, so it makes it kind of strange to put little blurbs like this on the website. The news and media page just consists of rendering and photos, as well as a couple press releases, but things are still very vague, and I understand it's going to be a while till production. But it does sort of rub me the wrong way when they're talking about going public when they're so far off from even starting production. I'm not a huge fan of heavy-handed outsourcing or special acquisition warrant systems, or companies not selling products. For me, I don't think this stock makes much sense to play, even if you have a large risk tolerance, because at this current time, there really isn't much evidence of this company making it in the long term. Musical chairs with an asset might sound like fun for some, but it's not the best investment advice in my opinion. If you want to jump into the stock market and start investing, I have a referral link in the description for Webull. If you sign up, you'll get 2 free stocks and have access to a fantastic mobile and web app.